Hello and welcome back to Talk with Coach. I am your host, Becca Goldsberry, Elite Sales and Leadership Coach with Southwestern Consulting. This podcast is all about learning from the best of the best in business, those who have walked the walk and are ready to share their journeys, lessons, and hard-earned wisdom. Whether you're a seasoned professional looking to sharpen your skills or an up-and-coming leader eager to learn this, you're in the right place. Today, we'll dive into practical strategies, leadership tactics, and insider tips directly from today's expert guest. So, you guys, I am excited to introduce our guest today, Jenette Jurczyk. We have had the pleasure of connecting through me being part of the first ever That's What She Said show in Indianapolis in September of 2023. And I cannot wait to just have her share her expertise with you all. Jenette is the national director of the She Said project, where she produces live shows called That's What She Said. She met the amazing founders of That's What She Said in 2015, joined the team, and brought with her her theater talents to empower real women to finding their voice and sharing their stories live on stage. And let me tell you, it is so much fun to do that. Under her vision, That's What She Said has expanded beyond its flagship community of Champaign-Urbana into a dozen cities with a lot more on the horizon. Through her company, Keylight Consulting, Jenette is a nationally recognized motivational speaker, and she has so many gifts and talents, you guys. I cannot wait for us to dive in. She's also an avid volunteer and has received numerous and has served on lots of boards, such as the Junior League of Champaign-Urbana, of course. She's a fellow Junior League person like myself, the Executive Club of Champaign County, and she serves as the president of the Family Room, the nonprofit she co-founded to provide resources and comfort to foster children. What I love most about Jenette, you guys, is her ability to really help others find their voice through their story and their experiences. She helped me find my voice and was the catalyst for helping me start my journey in writing my keynote, Gritty Grace. And she is a friend, a mentor, and someone we all should be able to have in our corner, because those of us who do are truly blessed. Jenette, welcome to Talk with Coach.
Thank you, Becca. It's a pleasure to be here,
Yeah.
and a little overwhelming hearing it come back from you, but I appreciate everything that you shared so far because when you're doing what you do,
That's
you
right.
don't think of it as anything, great or and you don't realize the impact you're having until you've done the work and then you stop and you look back. And I work with a lot of clients and a lot of business owners who they're going for the result, they're going for the impact, they're going for the, what's going to happen. And you got to, yes, I do believe you have to begin with the end in mind, but you also have to pay attention to the work that you're doing in the moment and every single day. And it isn't really until you're on the other side that you look back that you really realize the impact that you've had. And so it's really lovely to hear it from you. So thank you.
Hey, you are welcome. So, in that vein, like you have such a fun story to share how you got where you are. I would love because I've met somebody who also recently she shared with me she was part of Second City up in Chicago, and I thought, oh, I thought of you. I was like, Jenette, like you guys are just gonna have to meet because, and she would actually be a great person to have at the next Indie.
All right, got my notes. Send me an
Yep.
email.
I
Okay.
will do it. I will do it. So I would love to share your story with us. How did you get, where you are? And you have such a diverse background. Share with us.
Thank you. So I grew up in the East Coast. I'm a Jersey girl originally, and always involved in theater in elementary school, high school, every play I could get involved in, either on the stage or behind the stage, I was there. Theater has always been my passion. I never had a moment in my life where that wasn't the goal or the dream.
Yeah.
Of course, my dream did include, big bright lights and a red carpet and, living that movie star lifestyle. But it's interesting because the movie star lifestyle is kind of a facade. There's a lot behind that curtain that people don't realize that goes into a career in theater. And so When I graduated high school, I attended the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign to study theater, which still to this day, and I just recently turned 50, I look back and I go, why did I leave New Jersey to study theater in Illinois, where I had never stepped foot in the state before in my life? And I looked at colleges and conservatories in New York and all up and down the East Coast. But I'm telling you, Becca, I came to the University of Illinois on a hunch.
Really?
Honest to goodness, it was a hunch. And I liked the curriculum at the theater department because it had a conservatory style training, but it was housed inside a large state university. So I could get the full university experience and the conservatory training that I craved. So that was what attracted me to the program.
Okay.
But that hunch was not wrong, because on the second day of me stepping foot in the state of Illinois, I met a boy named Brian. And we dated briefly when we were, I was a freshman, he was a sophomore, but we were not meant to be when we were 18 years old. We became friends very quickly and stayed friends for a very long time. But I studied theater. I graduated. I was in New York for a few years with my girlfriend. We had an apartment, and, we did the auditions and worked 7 jobs and, tried
Right.
to make it. But we both had a passion for theater and film. And so we packed up, I think I was 24 years old, and we packed up our lives into a rental truck, and we drove from New York to LA, and we gave LA a try. We got to pursue our dreams, which even that alone, I'm so grateful for, because I know so many people with such big dreams that never even get that far, never even get out of that hometown, or never even give it the shot it deserves. But I'm blessed that I had the support and my family, and they said, go for it. So we drove to Los Angeles, and I lived in LA for 10 years. I was there for a decade. My girlfriend who I moved there with is still there to this day. We
Okay.
had amazing experiences. I did act in short films and some commercials and some theater. I did produce and direct and write, and learned a lot about myself growing up, a single young person, finding
Yeah.
yourself. It's that coming of age story.
Yeah.
But the one thing I didn't find in California was true love, if you dare say.
Absolutely.
But there was that boy that I had left behind back in Illinois. Remember that one?
I
It
do.
turned out um, we had been just friends for 16 years. And then during those 16 years, he maybe matured a little bit. I maybe matured a little bit. And then we realized we were meant to be together. And he had finished his studies, went all the way through his PhD in nuclear, radiological, and plasma engineering, and started a research and development company back in Champaign, Illinois, where we had originally met.
Yeah.
And so I was living in Pasadena, California, which was an amazing life, I'll tell you. But I didn't have a career that was so strong that it would keep me there. I had more flexibility than he did,
Mm.
because he had a company with employees who had spouses and children and mortgages, and he had a lot more responsibility at that time. And so I made the big decision of uprooting my life and moving back to Champaign, where I had gone to school.
Mm.
And it was a small Midwestern town.
Yeah.
Again, East Coast girl living in LA, big Broadway and movie star dreams, ending up back in the Midwest. And I definitely wasn't sure what was going to happen after that move. It wasn't my plan, but I was willing to stay open and curious and see what would happen. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of power in being open and curious.
Well, and I
Because
was going to say that's
yeah,
like one of your superpowers, I think, is your openness and just being curious to things.
I have to agree, because the
Hmm.
world will deliver amazing things to you if you allow it to.
Hmm.
If you allow yourself to stay open to what's possible, because it would be really easy for me to go, oh my God, I can never have a theater career in a small town in the Midwest. Funny story, I think I get paid more as an actor here than I ever did in LA, because there are opportunities everywhere. I've done a lot of training videos and educational videos for the University of Illinois. And then I went back to school and I got a master's degree in business. And so now I have a degree in theater and a degree in business. And I'm like, what do I do with that? So I started consulting
Yeah.
and using my theater talents, my theater training, to work with business professionals to help them build confidence when they have to be on a stage. or performing. And for me, performing can be anything. Anytime you're standing in front of one or more people and all eyes are on you and you're the one talking, you are in fact performing.
That's correct.
So I learned quickly that the real world, nobody teaches them theater techniques to overcome nerves, to build confidence, to stand loud and proud, to speak clearly, to make eye contact. Some people have that natural gift, but if you don't, there's not a lot of places to go and get trained in public speaking and building confidence. And so I started providing those trainings using theater games, theater improv.
Mm,
I did study at Second City briefly,
yep.
just to expand my palette of tools. And now I get to bring that to executive teams, to nonprofit boards, I'm a regular workshop presenter at the University of Illinois in the business college now. And so it's been a fun, interesting full circle. So I built that world. But I still, Brian and I found our happy home here in Illinois, and we had two daughters. And so that became, our lives
Yeah.
very much the girls take over, right? The children that become
Yep.
your
Always.
focus. And I think, and I hear this a lot from working women and moms that I know, there's this moment where you wake up one day and you're like, okay, I'm out of the baby haze, the fog, and take an assessment of your life and go, okay, am I doing all the things I was supposed to be doing? And where are my women friends, and where are my people, and where's my passion again? And I hear that a lot from women, that there's this moment in time where you're like, okay, I'm ready for my life to begin again, because your
Mhm.
kids reach an age where they go to school and you have a lot more routine back. And I was definitely in that phase. And as the universe lines up for you, I met these women who created this program called That's What She Said. And I was very intrigued by what they had created. To say it simply, it's giving real women a microphone, creating a platform, a safe space for everyday women to come together, explore their personal stories, and then be given the confidence to share those stories live on a stage in front of a live audience, and be cheered on and celebrated for being who they already are. It's not they're not playing a character. It's not, I mean, it is scripted, but it's scripted by the woman who's reading the story on that stage. And I walked into that world and started directing that show. And it was literally like the clouds parted and the angels sang. And I said, this is it. This is my calling. I get to use my theater training. I get to use my business degree. I get to use all of these things that I thought I had to give up when I left LA, and create theater here in the Midwest. And it has grown like wildfire, to be quite honest. And it's been the ride of my life. As you know, you got
Yep.
to participate in the
Yeah.
very first That's What She Said in Indianapolis.
And that was so much fun. Like the women that all spoke on stage that night, just phenomenal. Everybody's story is so different, and we all have different experiences, but it's amazing how the audience connected with everybody's story in a different
Yes.
way. Like I still, every time I see Brandy at junior league stuff, I always laugh because I always think of the Kung Pao chicken story. I
Every
mean,
time. Every
every
time.
time,
I
every time.
can't walk through a mall food court and see Sparrow and not be like,
That's
not
right.
Team Sparrow, Team Panda, like every
That's
time. And for your friends who are listening, we're referencing, one of the stories that was on stage the same night that Becca was on stage, because stories, they
right.
stick in your memory. They stay with you. And so I do a lot of consulting, and I do a lot of talking about the power of storytelling. And I mean, first of all, there's this bond that is created between women who go through this process together. And I get to witness it again and again and again. And it is this coming together and stripping away all of these pretenses. All of the small talk is gone in day one. And
Yeah.
we are immediately telling perfect strangers some of the most intimate details of our lives.
Mm,
And you immediately go, this is how relationships are formed. We
yeah.
are connected at a deeper level very quickly. And then we bring all this richness to our stories, and then we bring them to the stage. And then in one night, you are interacting with hundreds of people in the audience, and they are laughing with you and crying with you and feeling things that you've inspired in them. And
Mhm.
so in my talks about the power of storytelling, and I don't think this is any big secret, but if you think about the world of advertising and marketing and branding, you think of the world of nonprofits. When they send out those letters asking for donations, there's always a story in that letter telling you about the story of one of their clients, or a success story, because that pulls heartstrings, right?
Well,
But
business, right? Everybody who owns a business, has a service, sells a product, we should all be using stories to connect with potential clients.
and here's the formula. Stories evoke emotion.
Hmm.
Emotions, when there's an emotion tied to an experience, it becomes a memory. And a memory equals recognition of that brand.
Mm,
So if you talk about a brand and there's no emotional experience, that information is not going to stick as much as if you create a story around it that evokes an emotion. You know the saying, they're not going to remember what you say, but they're always going to remember how you made them feel. And if
100%.
you tie a story to a brand or a product or a cause, and you evoke an emotion from the audience, that creates recognition of your brand.
Mm. Stories are,
Storytelling at its finest.
I was going to say stories are powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But how many times have you been sold something, Jenette, and nobody used stories or tied into that emotions, and you walked away just feeling icky about the whole
Like,
experience?
why did I buy this thing?
Yeah.
Oh
Or
yeah,
or
we've
you
all
walked away
done
and
those.
you didn't buy or decide to work with them because it felt icky.
Yeah, you didn't have any buy-in. You didn't have any skin in the game, or
Yeah.
belief that you were part, like those companies that make you feel like you're part of their family, those
Yeah.
organizations that make you feel like you're making a difference. Like, that is powerful right there. Let's hope that most people use that, for the power of good and not the power of evil. You don't want anyone who's using the power of story. Yes, it's strong marketing, and I believe, that's a good
Right.
thing. But it's not about convincing to buy something they wouldn't buy anyway. It's about convincing people to feel good about their choice to buy your product or to support your cause, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So business is never smooth sailing, right? What's one of the biggest challenges that maybe you have experienced in your consulting business, or even with That's What She Said, and how'd you guys overcome some of those things?
So That's What She Said was meant to be a one night event in one town.
Okay.
And then the women of this small Midwest town embraced it so much that they brought it back again and then again. And I
Mm.
joined them along this journey, and I started directing the shows. And we started realizing that there was a need. There's a need for an event like this. Women and I mean, women everywhere can benefit from That's What She Said. But we really found power in these isolated towns in the Midwest. So we started in Champaign, Urbana. And then in 2019, I brought the show to Bloomington Normal, and then Peoria. And then we found our first producer who she produces the show under the That's What She Said licensing model
Yeah.
in St. Louis. And then we added Columbia, Missouri, and then Danville, Illinois. I mean, I could go on and on. We're in 15 cities and growing.
Okay.
And so the challenge for me as the business owner is scalability.
Mm.
So I am limited right now to my own bandwidth, my own capacity. And so I am in the process of figuring out ways to automate my onboarding systems so that I can get more people inspired to be part of this journey with me with less of my time. And so I'll get one of the best pieces of advice I've ever
Yeah.
received in business consulting is figure out what you can automate, what you can delegate, and what you can eliminate, right? And I'm sure
100%.
you've heard that.
The
And
focus on,
so,
yeah.
right, if it's not serving your cause, you need to eliminate it. If you reach a point where you can hand something off and delegate, it is hard to delegate when you are a one man operation or one woman operation. But I found ways to outsource to independent contractors to do some of my marketing on social media, to to do some project-based work. Like I'm not in a position where I can have full-time employees, but I can do project-based work. And so I have found assistance that way. There's always a way that you can find to
Always.
get things off your plate to grow. And one of the things I'm working on right now is building video training components so that more people can get the training from me without me giving my time every single time. And that's going to be an uncomfortable transition, to be quite honest, because I love the work. I love being with people. I love walking them through the process, but that's not a way to scale, right? That's going to,
No, you and Kevin can't be driving 3 hours to Indy all the time to train us as we get ready, right? Like, there's only so much time in the day. So I love
well,
that
my
idea.
other favorite word is leverage.
Yeah.
So I can keep doing the work that I love to do here in my town and empower as many women as I am capable of empowering. I produce and direct 3 productions, if that's what she said, a year. Plus, I direct a 4th one that someone else produces. Plus, I consult on several. Plus, I'm training new producers all the time.
Mhm.
And so, what that means to me is I can choose to stay where I am and use my gifts to help the people I can do in my 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Or I can leverage my talents and empower other women to do what I do to empower women in their communities. And so, even though I'm not even the one on the ground, I'm not the one in those rehearsal rooms, there are more women, dozens of women, in communities across the Midwest who are getting a same or similar experience of reflecting on their lives and going through the process of developing a story and preparing it for the stage and feeling what it feels like to stand up on a stage and speak from their heart and give of their voice and be celebrated, right? And for me, it's fascinating. Just this past weekend, I got to travel to St. Clair County, Illinois. So in the town of Belleville, there was a production of That's What She Said that I didn't produce, I didn't direct. I was in the audience and I get to sit there and cheer on these women. But I also know that those women wouldn't be on that stage if it weren't for me. If it weren't for, I empowered that producer and that director to create that show and
Yep.
to pay it forward. And so leverage is this magic word. When you introduced me, you talked about my nonprofit that I started to
Yeah.
support foster families in Champaign County. And it's because I have a huge heart for children in foster care. I had several experiences where friends had asked me if I would donate clothing and supplies because they were bringing in children into their home with very little notice, which is typically the case. And as my girls grew older, I always had clothes and stuff that I was willing to donate. And so I would create care packages and drop them off. And one day I literally stopped and I looked around and I said, wait a second, where is the resource in our community? And with my training that I received in junior league, my friends and
Right.
I, we did our homework, we did our research, and we realized there really wasn't a sustained resource here that could answer that need on a regular basis. And so we decided to build one. And when I look at that project, and we're in our 6th year, what I think is this: I could open my home to 1 or 2 children, but my husband and I have agreed that based on our schedules and our professional commitments, that would not be fair to those children. We're barely present for our own kids.
Yep.
I mean, we're very hands-on parents. But my point is I could pour myself into 1 or 2 children, which would of course be incredibly impactful. Or I can leverage my talents and my gifts and create an organization that is going to answer a need and leverage my ability to create impact in a larger way. And so there are dozens of children who have received, packages or resources because of the organization that I built. So I'm having maybe a smaller impact on a larger scale than, those families who bring in children into their home. They have a large impact on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
I am in awe. I am in awe of every single foster parent I meet.
Me
They
too.
are doing the work. It's incredible. But
Mhm.
sometimes you have to look at your own skills and abilities and time and capacity and go, what am I capable of? And what can I leverage to improve my impact?
And I think that's why one of the reasons why I joined Junior League was what could I leverage that I'm
Yeah.
good at and how can I give back? And so that was one of the reasons why I joined Junior League to begin with.
It's a phenomenal organization
It
for
is.
any of your friends who are listening who haven't joined yet. It is, well, when I've been an active member for 12, going on 13 years now.
Okay.
And I always see it as my scheduled adult time. Like it's pre-scheduled. I know it's on my calendar. It's my night away from the kids and my husband, and I get to
Mhm.
go see these women who I've worked with and admired and respected, and I get my quality adult time. But also there's a mission. You're giving back to the community, you're building projects, you're answering a need every single time.
Absolutely. Such a good organization. So, where do you see That's What She Said going in the future? What's that look like for you guys?
So in the pie in the sky, like no holds barred, no limit vision, I mean, I'd like to see That's What She Said in cities coast to coast and around the world. I I think of it like TED Talks for women, even though TED Talks has a women's division. Awesome. I
Mhm.
think there's more than enough for all. The rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Yep.
Um, TED has its own focus, and then there's the Moth and there's Pachakacha and there's other organized speaking events, and we have certainly found our niche. It's empowering real women from that community. We're not a touring company. We don't take women from one show and bring them to a different community. It is 100% homegrown, organic in that community. And
Mhm.
so that is unique in its format, but incredibly powerful because the women you're going to see in a show, like you can buy tickets to go see a show, some comedian is coming into town and you can be entertained for 2 hours. But these are women these are women you bump into in the grocery
Yep.
store. These are women, the teachers in your kid's school. These are real women bearing their souls a little bit.
Mhm.
And we have found, that, and I know you were talking about vision, but I mean, it comes right back to like real women being incredibly vulnerable and authentic has power. Like we had our mayor on our stage and she was very humanizing by sharing her personal story and her struggles. You're in a position of notoriety, a public figure. People start assuming things about you, and then for her to come on our stage and just be a real person was a phenomenal opportunity for her and for the community.
Oh, I bet
And
it made her seem human probably to everybody.
100%. Yeah. It gives you an opportunity to see the woman behind the role. And we've had women who are very powerful in our community, who run large nonprofits, stand on our stage and share their struggles with mental health or, things that have happened in their lives that you don't talk about at work because it's not appropriate. But when but yet you know that if you shared your story, you could empower people. And we always say, if you don't have to change the world, and not everyone is going to agree with every story, but all you need is one. If there's one person in that room or one person listening to the podcast who can be impacted by your story and think a little differently or go and have a difficult conversation because of what you've inspired, that's enough. You've done the work.
Yeah.
Those are ripple effects that can change the world for good if we allow it. So I do think that this can have legs in so many communities. It can be a global force for good. We choose to be at the forefront of some difficult conversations. One of our priorities at That's What She Said is accessibility, diversity, representation. And so we take measures in every show to make sure that those are top of mind. And when we're training new producers, we empower them to have those conversations as well, making sure that the women that are on that stage represent the community for real. And every show we ask ourselves, what voice have we not heard yet? What story have we not heard yet? Where's the representation in our community that we have not found yet? And we actively seek out voices of women whose stories need to be heard. And that can be powerful absolutely everywhere. It's giving real women a voice. And we are a safe space because we believe every woman has a seat at the table. That's What She Said is a non-religious, non-denominational, non-political, non-partisan. Like we are a space for every woman to come together and be heard and be seen. And we don't endorse anyone, we don't take any sides. We just allow women's voices to be heard, period. And that is enough.
It
That is
is.
enough.
Absolutely. We all have tough days, right? How do you stay, with your busy schedule, how do you stay motivated, keep pushing forward during difficult and crazy times?
Well, I'm one of those personalities that feeds off of that busy energy.
Okay.
There are some people who, yes,
Mm,
the more on your plate, the more exhausted you feel. I I get exhilarated by the work that I get to do every day.
mm,
So there's days that are more tedious than others, but when I am one-on-one with a woman coaching her through her story, or I'm running a rehearsal and just sitting back and watching these women shine, oh my gosh, it fills my cup. Like I am fueled by this, by my experiences.
yeah.
And so I do say to business women, if it's the old adage, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Mm,
But if you can find, even if it's not everything in your job or your career or your day to day,
right.
find one piece of your work that is fuel instead of draining, and make sure that, that you're giving that enough attention. Because I mean, if your job is 100% draining, then maybe you're not in the right field.
Mm,
If it's all take and no give,
yeah.
then that is a hard ask for every single day, right?
And I always tell people and tell clients too, if you don't have a purpose or a why you do what you do and it's not fulfilling, maybe you're on the wrong bus, right? Because obviously that's going to show at work, at
Yeah.
home, around everybody you talk to, because you're just not happy. You're just not a happy person typically. So I always tell people, go find something that you love and want to go do and
Yeah.
find joy in it.
And you can find those people. If you meet anyone who is mean or petty or jealous or always has a comment or puts people down, those are people who are not happy in their own lives. It has
Yep,
nothing to do with you. It's not a reflection of you or the work you're doing. They are not happy in their own lives, and they have no choice. I mean, they're, instead of focusing inward and fixing their own source of joy, they are, they are putting that out on the people who are successful and are living in their joy, and trying to turn it into a negative. So you have to be aware of that. When you meet someone who is in their own personal joy and has found their purpose in their calling, there's no jealousy. There's 100% support, admiration. We cheer each other on, because I don't want your life or your career. I have my own, and it's amazing. So there is no reason for me not to just cheer you on and celebrate every single win. Like,
absolutely.
yeah, there should never be jealousy between mature, accomplished, powerful women or people ever.
No, there shouldn't be. And one of the things I always find when I find those people who are just in their joy, I like want to be instant friends. Like
Yeah.
I want to go have drinks, I want to go have coffee. I just want them to be in my circle because I just want to keep filling my cup up with happy people and being surrounded by happy people.
Yeah, there's people you meet where you get
Yeah,
this vibe. You're like, I want them in my life. I want more of that. And then there's people you meet, and I will support you. I will cheer you on. But there's an energy where you're like, you're not my people. And if people drain you, limit your interactions with them, and that's okay. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I don't have to be.
yeah.
But one of my She Said speakers from a Champagne show, she was on the podcast, just one of the best quotes I ever heard. Sometimes you have to be brave enough to let people not like you. I was like, that one hit me, because I'm like, there's definitely, I want everyone to like me side of me. And it's just not possible. It's impossible for everyone to like, there's so many different personalities. And so that one gave me some strength to go forth and be who I am, and not for other people, but just be who I am for me. And if you want to come along for the ride, please do.
Yeah. I had a leader who was like when I first started with Southwestern for the first few years, she's like, it's okay for people to say no and not to like you, because me, I want everybody to like me and to always be my friend. And she's like, we're not going to be able to please everybody. And she goes, and that's okay. She goes, but go find those people who want to be surrounded by you and who are friendly and nice. Go find the nice people. And so that has always given me confidence of go do me, like go do Becca, and just go have amazing conversations and go serve and go find joy, right? Don't let the negatives and the negative people bring you down.
You can't. I mean, that will just get in your way of all your own greatness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are some of the fun things when you're not running around all over the place? What are some of the fun things that you and the family love to do just to kind of help you reset?
So my husband and I both have a philosophy of work hard, play hard.
Hmm.
So he owns a deep tech research and development firm, and I own a national theatrical production company
Yeah.
and consulting company. And I'm sitting in my office at home, and the other side of this desk is his. And so every night we tuck the girls into bed and we come down here and we sit across from each other and we work until the wee hours of the morning, because that's sometimes when we get our most productive time. And it's not sustainable. But, we go through periods where there's big deadlines coming up and we have to work hard. And then when there's not, we love to travel. We'll take the kids on some fun, crazy adventures. This past summer, we spent 3 weeks in Europe. We took the girls to see Taylor Swift in Warsaw, Poland.
Oh my goodness, I bet they
Yeah.
loved it.
Oh, absolutely. It was a magical experience. And so that's what play hard looks like for us. So
Yeah.
when we're on, and when we're off, we get to go do fun things. But from 3:30 to 9 o'clock at night, I am mom, and at 5 o'clock he becomes dad. And we are going to taekwondo and tumbling and soccer and volleyball and archery and whatever the activities are that period. And we're very active in our girls' after school lives. And so, I mean, that brings us absolute joy. But my work does give me a lot of joy, and so I never not want to be moving it forward. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't think my husband and I ever just sit on the couch ever and
Yeah.
just that's we'll go out to dinner,
Yeah.
but we might be workaholics. I might need a support group for that. It's
You
true.
might. You might. It,
But I will share one of my secrets that helped me this past year. Um, like many women, there's a time in life where stress and hormones and things start impacting your health. And I've dealt with some chronic pain and some other, feelings of exhaustion and fatigue and frustration with all of it, when your body doesn't want to keep up with your brain and your mind. So I do work out with a trainer, and a friend of mine introduced me to yoga nidra, which is a form of meditation, but it is intentional deep rest. And so it kind of walks you through giving your body permission to rest. And I have found that has curbed my anxiety tremendously. And I only do it about 2 or 3 times a week. And that has become my go-to. I love audiobooks. If I'm driving between shows or rehearsals, I'm listening to podcasts or audiobooks in the car. Because I find that I don't have time to read, even though I would love to. So I use my car time wisely.
Car University is what I always call it.
Car University? Is that
Car
what you?
University. Yep.
I like
So,
that. Okay.
because most of my Audible books are all leadership, sales, business books that I'm listening to. So it's my Car University, or I'll
You're a
listen.
self-improvement junkie, like
I'm totally.
probably many of your people listening right now. I mean, and that's a good thing. I
It
love
is.
it.
Well, it's just that whole student of the game mindset, right? So speaking of, if you had to boil everything down, Jenette, what are the top three pieces of advice you'd give anybody looking to grow their business or leadership skills?
Looking to grow your business or leadership skills.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So it always begins with permission. Every time I meet a woman to work on her story, every time I meet a client to work on public speaking, we do a check in. Like, what is stopping you from feeling your most confident and bringing your best self forward in life, in work, and in this performance setting? And so often it's the voices inside your head telling you, I don't deserve to be here. I'm not good enough. Why should anybody listen to me? And so 100%, you have to give yourself permission to be seen and to be heard. We as women in particular have been told again and again that it's not okay to talk about yourself. It's selfish or it's bragging. And that's what she said. Our number one goal is to give women permission to talk about themselves in the first person. And this might be my second piece of advice.
Okay.
You deserve to be the leading character in your own story,
Mm-hmm.
because so often I hear women share their first draft of their story, and I learn everything about their husband and their mom and their dog and their community, and thanking everybody who got me here to where I am today. And then I look at them and I go, but who are you today? You kind of missed that part. Like I didn't get to know you. I got to hear all the people that you wanted to thank. And they stop and they go, what do you mean? And it's a big, aha moment when I hold up a mirror and I go, where are you in your story? And so giving yourself permission to be seen and be heard. And guess what? By doing that, you automatically give other women permission to do the same, because you see someone who's standing in their power, and you feel like you can do that too. And stop apologizing. Stop apologizing for taking up space. I've had women who stand up in a room, in a networking situation, who are asked to stand up and introduce themselves and their companies or their jobs or their business offering,
Yep.
and literally, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm taking up so much time. You were literally invited to stand up here and share. What on earth are you apologizing for? There
Amen.
are women in this room who need to hear what you have to say. And I started paying attention to this when I go to networking groups. And whenever you're in a room full of women where you get an opportunity for everyone to introduce themselves, I'm going to tell you this one. This is new for me.
Okay.
I started paying attention to how people stand up in the room, and some women don't want to stand up. Some women don't want to go to the microphone. Some women will stand up and like shuffle and shout, hi, I'm so-and-so. And they'll sit back down really quickly. And I caught myself doing the same thing. Like, I don't want to take up time. I don't want to take up space. I don't want to, like, oh my God, these people are so sick of hearing me talk about that's what she said. Everybody knows who I am already. Like, it's embarrassing. And I stopped myself. I said, how can you coach other people to stand up loud and proud and share who they are if you can't do it yourself? And so I made a conscious choice every single time I have an opportunity to stand up in front of a room and talk about the work that I get to do. I stand up with energy. I look people in the eye. I
Yep.
speak clearly, and I take my time. And it is not comfortable, by the way. It's okay to be uncomfortable,
It is.
because if you're uncomfortable, you're probably doing it right. And therefore, when I have an opportunity to help other people be their best selves, I can use that as an example and be like, I chose to stand up and be loud and proud, to be an example for others to do it too. Not to be better than anyone, not to be, the biggest performer in the room. But that was all part of my leadership journey. I was always the loudest and the first one to raise my hand. And there was a time in my own leadership journey where I had to step back and let other people speak and let other people take the stage. And I almost went to the point where I went too far back. And I was like, because letting everybody else go first. And there has to be this balance of owning your own power, not listening to the voices inside your head. Like, we say things to ourselves inside our head that we would never say out loud to another person.
No. And I
So
always
why
ask,
on earth would you allow yourself to say it to yourself?
absolutely. I always ask
Right?
people, hey, if you were listening, if you were somebody else, would you be friends with yourself from what you are saying inside your head? Would you be your friend because
Right.
of
If
what
you
you're
heard someone else complain about themselves like this, wouldn't you be turned off?
saying? Absolutely.
We've got to get in control of that voice. And
100%.
so it's so fascinating, because I always try to figure out, where did it come from? Where did it come from for all
Mhm.
these women? So stop apologizing. Take up space. Excuse me. I did
Yep.
hear this advice from, and I'd like to give credit where credit is due, my friend Marie Hale. She's also a sales and marketing expert. And I took one of her classes, and she said, no one will call you an expert until you say it first.
Amen.
So you've got to walk in the room and say, hi, my name's Jenette Jurczyk, and I am an expert in storytelling. That took a minute for me to figure out. But how
Yeah.
can other people refer to you as an expert in your field if you're not willing to say it first?
Hmm.
I thought so. I do share that one a lot. That one's pretty good. And then,
Amen.
I mean, there's a lot of great quotes out there, leadership quotes.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorites?
There's so many. Actually, I one Albert Gray. has something called the common denominator of success. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but he says the common denominator of success, the secret of success of every person who has ever been successful, lies in the fact that he or she formed the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. And so if you can find this little cute little book, well, just like this, it's he wrote it like in the 1940s. So it's old school, kind of like Og Mandino, Zig Ziglar, but it's true. The successful people in life do the things that people who have failed or just staying average don't like to do, no matter what
In
business.
addition to that,
Yeah.
it's even when you fail, you keep going, you get up and try again, you get up and try again. Typically, the ones who succeed are the ones who held on the longest,
Mm-hmm.
who didn't give up even when it was hard or failed. Like they just kept
Yeah.
going. Yeah, that can apply to a lot of different things. I love Mel Robbins has a great quote that I've now started sharing and using. It's the whole concept of let them. So what if people are going to judge you? Let them.
Mm.
So what if they, if they're having a bad day, let them, like just that, those two words, you're just like, let them. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't like me? Go for it.
Let
That's
them.
fine.
Yeah.
And that whole concept of what other people think of you is none of your business.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, it's not. So I always end on a funny note here on Talk with Coach. Okay, can you share with us a funny childhood story, something, that we can all relate to, because I'm sure we all have funny stories and things that our parents love to tell. Like my husband, when he first met my mom, she just started sharing all of the things. She just brought out all of the things and just started sharing these funny stories. What's the one that sticks out for you?
So when I was in fourth grade, I think I've shared a little bit here that I've always been a loud person and not afraid to speak my mind.
Yeah.
And I had to find that balance to find my own, strength. But when I was in fourth grade, and I went to a Catholic school, and I walked down the hallway, and there was a teacher standing in the hallway. Not my teacher, the teacher who taught across the hall from me was standing in the hallway talking to a girlfriend. And I literally walked up to her. My mother loves telling the story. And I said to her, and I quote, Mrs. Kiernan, shouldn't you be teaching class right now? Fourth grader
Fourth
said that
grader.
to my teacher. And of course, my mother got a phone call. But
I'm sure. Yep.
so what that story means to me though is that I called her I called her out on her own, accountability on being a responsible teacher. I didn't think of it as anything wrong. In my mind, the bell has rung and you're supposed to be in your class teaching. Like to me, it just seemed so normal and correct that I was just holding her accountable. And now there's that whole concept that, these little girls who are bossy and loud, you know, you have a choice. You can tear them down and say, don't be so bossy, or, don't be so opinionated, or don't be. Or
Mm.
you can help these young girls, guide them to use their sass appropriately
Yeah.
and and strengthen it in a way that's going to help them, because we all have seen these young sassy girls grow up to be some really incredible leaders. And so don't tell a girl she's bossy, tell her she has incredible leadership skills. And when your parent says, I hope you have a child just like you one day, I did. I have a mini me, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm her mother. But man, I know what it feels like now to have a sassy one with an opinion.
I I'm right there with you. Like I was one of the sassy loud girls, always have been, and I'm just glad my mom helped cultivate that into good. And my mom always laughed and she's like, as I was growing up, I always hope you have a mini Becca. Well, I do. Thad is a mini Becca. He is opinionated. He tells you like it is, but he's got such a big heart. He always wants to do and help people do what's right. So we have, we can't just mold them the way they need to be, you guys.
And I feel like we have a huge opportunity here to take all of this wonderful knowledge and
Yeah,
and help this next generation, hopefully the right way.
absolutely.
People need to remember one sentence from an adult, good or bad, can stick in a child's mind for the rest of their lives. Every single one of us has, 1 sentence from an adult, good or bad, can stick in a child's mind for the rest of their lives. Every single one of us has, 1 sentence from an adult, good or bad, can stick in a child's mind for the rest of their lives. Every single one of us has a phrase that someone said to you
Yep.
once upon a time that was either an insult that buried deep
Mhm.
and stayed with you and impacted your choices and your behavior later in life,
Yes.
or a compliment that stayed with you and helped you grow later in life. So the words we say to children as they're growing up are hugely important. And
Absolutely.
so we've talked about that's what she said, but we've taken this concept of empowering women to share stories, and we have a empowerment program for teens called That's What Teens Say, where we try to get to these girls before the world has told them that
Yeah.
they shouldn't have an opinion or a voice, and we give them a safe space to tell their stories loud and proud. And then you mentioned we have a podcast. We published our first book last year, our first collection of women's stories. It's all about building platforms for women to come together and share stories and learn from each other. And we just held our second annual The Power of Storytelling Women's Conference last week. So I encourage your followers to pay attention to what's happening at the She Said Project, because
Yeah.
we've got lots of fun things coming down the pipeline.
Well, I was going to say, where can they find more about you guys, what you're doing, connect with you, and follow what's happening maybe in their areas?
Thank you. The website is shesaidproject.com, and it can connect you to all of these things: the podcast, the conference, the teens. There's a menu, you can reach all of these areas.
Awesome.
But on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, at She Said Project. Everywhere you go, at She Said Project. And on YouTube, if you want to see any of our past performances, if you want to see
Yeah.
Becca share her story of her gritty grace, at the YouTube, it's at She Said Project, the She Said Project YouTube channel. If you search for That's What She Said or She Said, you'll find 100 million things out there. So the word project is very
Good.
important. She Said Project keeps us all of our stuff in one place. And yeah, we like to announce when we're coming to a new city. We have our second city in Indianapolis just became official. We'll
I'm
be
so
having a
excited.
That's What She Said in Terre Haute next year.
Oh, that'll be so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So Indianapolis and Terre Haute. So, I mean, it's just been organic growth because people have found what we're doing and said, we want to do it too. We want to bring this to the women of our community. And we're going to make the world a better place, Becca.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I'm so glad to be on this journey with you, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate the fact that we got to stay in touch. You got to
Yeah.
be on our podcast. We get to keep finding these
I know.
neat ways to share even more and raise more voices. The rising tide lifts all boats. There's more than enough to go around.
Yes.
This life is not a contest. Just enjoy your little piece of it.
100%. So, Jeanette, thank you for being on. So, everybody, this wraps up another insightful episode of Talk with Coach. A huge thank you to Jenette Jurczyk for just sharing such valuable and knowledgeable, fabulous lessons from her incredible story. If today's episode resonated with you, or you have a burning question or topic you'd like us to discover in the future, we'd love to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Until next time, remember every step forward is a part of your success story. Keep striving for greatness, keep learning, and don't forget, your journey is just beginning.